Recording in progress.
Everybody, nice to see you again. Call to order the April 24th, 2024 regular meeting of the Oregon City Library Board. And in attendance are Cynthia Andrews, Heidi Blackwell, Nick Dierkman via Zoom, Harry Osborne, Lisa Reskovich, and Bill Barton. Greg Williams and Denise Butcher staff are here as well. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, February 28th. Any questions, corrections, concerns?
I loved them. They were short and sweet.
The record shows short and sweet.
I'll make a motion for approval of the minutes.
All right, thank you. Second, please. Second. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And before, did we hit the mark?
Yes.
With the minutes? Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
That level of detail?
Yes, I thought it was fine.
Okay.
All right, library director report.
Okay. I will try to keep it brief. So as I mentioned in my email to you, I was not able to do programming statistics this month. We have switched the tool that we use to collect those statistics to a new platform, and I just haven't had the time to recreate I'm very much looking forward to using a new tool to pull stats, but I have not had a chance to do so, and some of that learning curve yet. So those should be back next week. Otherwise, if there's any questions about anything that was in my report, please let me know. The only other thing that I did not get in here that I did want to share with the group, I guess we'll get into this part of the tax plan update, so I'll defer that one. I did also want to let everybody know I will be sending out some information. I did not get this in the packet, but you've seen it in the Friday updates that we send out. We are busily preparing for Juneteenth, which is going to happen here. Heidi is a community planning committee that is helping us with that. And as part of that, we have started a community reads. So the demand for the books has been great. We're currently out. We have 100 or so more coming very soon. So we are distributing the book. It's called The Place We Make by Sarah Sanderson. It is partially about Jacob Vanderpool, who was the only Black person in Oregon who was exiled under the state's exclusionary laws. He was a boarding house owner in Oregon City. And so the book deals with both that history and then the author's kind of, she traces some of her ancestry back to the white business owners who were behind the orchestration of that exclusion, and kind of her journey discovering that. And how, asking some really good questions. So we've been giving out that book. We are having 4 community conversations around that book. We received a grant from Oregon Humanities to support that. One is here at the library, one is at Clackamas Community College, one is online, and then the one that we're really, really, really pleased with is one is out at the Redmond Grange in unincorporated Clackamas County. And it's actually been a really good opportunity for us to connect with the Grange, and they're very excited about having this become the first of library programming out there. They're very keen to have us back out for more, so we're excited about that. And then we will culminate with, we'll have a panel discussion at the Juneteenth event that kind of caps off that community discussion. So I will be sending out more information about that, or send some out. I just want to share that. It's a big thing we're working on. So I hope everybody will have a chance to participate. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to share during director's report, unless there are questions.
Just wondering, just as I look through the electronic materials, it seems like that, like monthly, they're increasing. So just what that encompasses, and I never noticed that it seems to be growing.
Electronic, it's primarily ebooks, and e-audiobooks are downloadable ebooks and e-audiobooks. And yes, I mean that is the area all libraries not just Clackamas County libraries, that's where they're seeing the biggest growth in usage. It's also the most challenging budgetarily.
That was my next question.
Because I can certainly do a full presentation on this later, but the basic difference is you don't buy electronic materials, you license them. And so the publishers have very strict rules about how long you can use them, how many times they can circulate. So it's not like a book where we buy it once and it's good for 200 or 300 circulations. Most likely we'll buy 26 or 52 circulations out of it, and then we have to pay again. And the prices the library pays are not the same prices you pay on Amazon for your Kindle version. Ours are much higher. So that has been a constant struggle for all of our Clackamas County libraries to figure out how do we meet that demand with the extra costs that it entails. And for most libraries, where you pull back, from, and I'm going to go on a tangent, but just so you know, for example, a place that we have identified here at the library, we took a look at our circulation for physical audiobooks. And cars don't have CD players in them anymore. And we looked at the usage of those, and it's like that. And so we decided, that is a really good place that we can take the money we're formally allocating for that collection and put it over into ebooks and e-audiobooks. Longer term, that's one of the things as we look at the future of the district. How do we have enough funding to make sure we're accommodating demand for those digital?
Thank you.
That's a much longer answer than you want.
No,
Great. No, it's good.
makes sense.
Anything else?
There's one tiny downturn in gold sent out compared to gold sent in. At what point does somebody get concerned about it? First of all, that we're at 40 to 60% or
Yes. So great.
This is lost in the noise, maybe?
No, not at all. This is actually, and Nick knows this very well because this is working on for a long time. So if you look historically, and this just say this is not anybody's fault. It was the way it was back in 15 years ago, especially before the building was expanded. The ratio of what we sent out to what we brought in was closer to 60-40. Which we were sending out 40% only in 60%. The goal that we all have as cooperative partners in the library district is to get close to 50-50, right? We basically want to say, hey, yes, we're borrowing things from other libraries, but we're also shouldering our load and sending things out in approximately the same amount. So going from 60-40, where we are now, ideally we'd be at 50-50. We actually, when we redid our collection development policy, we actually put in there one of our collection development goals to try to get as close to that 50-50 ratio as possible. I think we hit 50-50 a couple of times in the last 2 years.
Yes.
It's been more 52-48, which to me is pretty good. It's pretty good.
Okay.
There are some things that are out of our control in that. Some of it, for example, when you put a hold in the system, there's an algorithm that figures out, okay, Oregon City patient put something on hold. It's available at Estacada, Wilsonville, and Canby.
Yeah.
Who does it fill? And that impacts the statistics, and that's all centrally managed, and they manage it to try to achieve some other things rather than making our ratio look perfect. They go in and they try to make it to get everybody close to 50-50 because they can.
Yeah, because transport distance is no incremental cost.
Correct. Yes.
And if Canby put something on hold, right, then who fulfills it? It could be us.
Right. Yes. So, and the goal is when there are multiple options, is try to make it so that you can get it as close to 50-50 possible. It's but yeah, I feel pretty good. Historically, we are much closer to 50-50, and we have been for a long time than we ever were in the past. So, and I can tell you that when I first started, I would sometimes get calls from other directors, from other libraries saying, hey, you're not pulling your weight, and I have not received any of those calls in the past couple of years.
Which basically means you weren't buying new material.
Sometimes a good portion of it, yes, is new materials. It's also a good opportunity for us to, and these are some of the things we want to do with some analytic tools, is like in nonfiction. Like if we can look at, are we sending out, for example, or when people want I'm just gonna pick something out of there. Chemistry, works on chemistry. Are we pulling in a whole bunch of chemistry from other libraries because we don't have the
Right.
selection here? And that would be something that we could look at and say, oh, we kind of need to bulk up our chemistry section so that we can start, not pulling those from elsewhere, but we can satisfy local demand. But a lot of it is the new materials, yes. And we've tried to, with that goal in our collection development policy, we have been buying some more new materials. You don't want to go too far over that because you buy a whole bunch of new materials and 6 months later, you've got 9 copies of James Patterson, you only need 2 of them. So
Right.
try to do this.
Okay. Anything else? No? All right. There's 2 discussion items. One about the tactical plan update and then about going forward strategic and tactical plan. So, Greg, why don't you walk us through sort of where we are in the tactical plan now?
Thanks, David. So I won't go through the whole thing, but I'll hit the highlights. So this is the same format we used last time around. Totally open to changing this, but to me, it works pretty well. Anybody who may eventually watch this on Zoom, as a reminder, our goal was every quarter that we would report back to the live board on our progress on those tactical items. Looking at the calendar we had set up, we had originally thought this month would be kind of the, hey, let's look at our items and anything that we're going to need to adjust for the next fiscal year. If everybody's okay with that, it makes more sense to do it next month in May. We can do a quarterly update now, have a discussion in May, and then have it all set up for June. So that's my plan, is to come back next month to say, okay, now that we're almost at the end of the fiscal year, what might need to move or maybe changing. So I've gone through, and again, the categories that we set up, I just put, what kind of their category is. I added this column, this at a glance, you can see these are the ones that I talk about in the notes. And there's some note about what the progress has been. Excuse me. I am very pleased that there's one that we can, based on the way it's written, we can mark it off as completed. So it was completed on time. That is, I'll get to that in a second. So but it's nice to see some green there. And of the 12 initiatives we had scheduled for, the first year of our tactical plan, you can see what those statuses are. And then of the ones that we have scheduled for year 2, you can see what the statuses are there. I won't read these verbatim. I'll just go through them very quickly. The library card, student library card program is going really, really well. I believe that the first test data load of actual live data from first grade students is happening this month. This month or next month. They've done all the kind of testing process with dummy data, and it's worked very, very well. And they are confident that they're ready to do it with live data. So the plan is they'll do, I believe it's 1 first grade classroom sometime in the next few weeks. And barring any unforeseen issues, we are on track to offer this to all OCSD students as part of their enrollment package this summer. So really excited about that. The one we've marked off as complete is we had said that by March 31st of this year, we would reach out to the active CPOs, community planning organizations in our service area. CPOs are kind of the county equivalent of the City Neighborhood Association. I work with the county. There are 5 active county CPOs that are in our service area that occupy enough of our service area to kind of makes sense for us to go talk to them. I think there's one that there's like a tiny little sliver, but the vast majority of those people are in a different service area. So these are the ones that we focused on. We reached out to all of them, and I'm happy to report that we've got 2 positive responses. So we'll be going out to Beaver Creek on the 22nd. And we're scheduled to go to Malino on the 16th. So David's going to be joining me there. And our plan is we're just going to share hey, we're welcome. We want to connect with the community. Remind people that yes, you are in a service area. Here's some of the services we offer. We want to share our survey results with them. And here's what we've heard from unincorporated residents. Here's some of the things we started to do to meet, the needs and the wants outlined in those. and then just to listen and to kind of solicit feedback and say, hey, what else do we need to know? What else, can we be thinking about? So I'm very excited. I think it's going to be great. Our books by mail program is proceeding nicely. We have our bags ordered, and they were in production as of this week. We were checking statuses, refreshing to see if they might see shipped, but they should be here in a couple of weeks. And our circulation team is they've got things figured out, so they're ready to go. We actually started having conversations about, once we start, are there some other things that we might want to do with this? We said, let's get the first part started first. Let's get that up and running. So we're very keen on that. I anticipate that we will be able to hit that one on the time frame we noted here. There is an item there to complete an analysis and recommended implementation of collection diversity audit tools and services. At a previous meeting of the data committee, we shared one tool that we looked at. In that time, we have learned of another tool that is really interesting as well. So we had a demo of that. We've been playing around with it. We'll call with the representative next week, hopefully next week. So I'm confident that we are going to acquire one of those tools, which will make it much easier for us to look at our collection and see what are the areas that we need to do a better job in. I'm going to skip down to one because it also relates to that tool. I'm going to skip down to this one here, collect usage reports, which can be informed collection budget allocation decisions. Same thing. That software that we're looking at also does that. It will help us do a better job of what's circulating well, where do you have demand that you're not meeting, and maybe this is where you want to increase some budget allocation. And then the last one, we had said we wanted to establish a mechanism to assess and identify staff cultural competency and DEI training needs. When we originally put that in there, we were thinking more of kind of a local effort in the library. The city is now in the second phase of their process, their citywide DEI initiative. And so I would like to just kind of let that go forward because there is a huge staff training component to that. So I don't want to reinvent the wheel, and I don't want to do anything, I don't want to have a parallel training, track to what the city is doing. So I will keep you updated on that. This is one of those that maybe next month we might need to talk about, just updating the estimated completion date based on the vendors' plans. But we're excited to be working with Triangle Advising Group. That company is now, it's headed by the same person we worked with last time, Lamont. That's his new company. So yeah, we're keen to work with him again. We felt the city had a very good relationship with him. He kind of understands Oregon City, and we've already had a couple of meetings. I am one of the people who's on the internal planning committee for that project, so I get to. I pipe up a lot. Say, you do this? Yes, I know. It doesn't make any sense, right? I'm usually such a wallflower. And then finally, for this one, by June 30, 2025, engage consultants to do the work originally envisioned as part of the district task force. As I note here, the library directors have finalized a link-wide strategic and tactical plan, which includes this work as part of it. That's going to be our next discussion item, so we're discussing that until we get there. So are there any questions on any of these updates or the status of any other of our tactical plan initiatives?
Quick question. The CPOs, how formal are they, and do they have any communication that they send out to the residents that are part of the CPO?
Yes. Well, I believe they are similar to neighborhood associations, is that different CPOs have different level of community involvement. So I just know from experience, I can't remember the name, it might be the Oak Grove one. Like the Oak Grove CPO, incredibly active with hundreds of members and, newsletters that go out all the time. Whereas some of the other CPOs are not as active and they hew more closely to the original conception of them as land use, right? So I think they only meet, there's a land use decision that impacts their borders. But I know that the Beaver Creek one is one of those active ones.
I just wondered if it was another opportunity for communication out to the community.
Yes, I think it is, and I think that's something that we'll learn a little bit more about how those CPOs communicate with their residents, and how we can maybe leverage them.
Yeah, there was real excitement for the 2 responses we got, so we're looking forward to it.
Great, thanks.
And then Heidi, you had a question?
It was around just how the successes and how this plan is communicated out. It would line with, I believe David went to talk to the city, right? Gave the report. I was kind of curious on how that went.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had that under communication.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I think it's working.
Okay. Yeah, I this is really helpful for us. It's great to have just some things that we know we're focusing on. And keeps us honest reporting back.
There's some similarities between the Oregon City plan and LINCC plan. As I was looking at that, I didn't see that.
Yes, it's quite possible. I'm chair of the LINCC directors group this year, so it's quite possible that, I might have had a hand in both of those.
Good.
Okay.
Well, I think that's the way the plan's supposed to work. I mean, the board is, sets the strategy, and we focused on limited, 5 limited areas, and we've got like 3 tactical activities, and then, hold you accountable for it, and it's working.
I'm really happy to see how the tactical plan just really is the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
And that, the strategic plan, was the overall umbrella. And we've been able to separate those, which gives, in some ways, the library staff, a lot more guidance and, a lot more freedom. And at the same time, to really implement those at the ground level. I'm just really excited to see that. So,
Okay,
Great.
thank you all for your support.
Yeah. All right, so now let's move to the LINCC
Okay.
3-year plan.
Yes, so the LINCC strategic and tactical plan. So just to make sure everybody, I'm not using acronyms. So LINCC is our cooperative libraries in Clackamas County. I will say that this has always been one of the challenges of our cooperative. We have a very loose cooperative, especially when you compare it to somebody like Multnomah County. They're the opposite end of the spectrum, where they truly are a single county system. And a decision made at the central office applies to every single branch, and it dictates how things are going to happen. In Clackamas County, that is not the way it is. So it's all very much, the IGA said that we cooperate to the maximum extent practicable, and there's always, there's discussion around that, what's feasible and what works. But so one of the things we've been talking about as a group of directors for a while, and especially the past 18 months, is we would very much like to, we wanted to develop a strategic and tactical plan, partially to kind of help make sure that the resources that we are all contributing to LINCC-wide work are used as efficiently and effectively as possible. You may not know, but there are individual LINCC committees that are made up of members of every library. So, for example, there's a youth services committee that has children's librarian or children's staff from every library, and they get together and they work on projects that have county-wide, impact. Same with adult services. We've got circulation committee. So the directors really wanted to make sure that we were helping give those groups direction, and that the work they were doing was really moving us in the direction we wanted to go. We also wanted to get ourselves in a position where we could start communicating our successes and also some of our needs going forward, in anticipation of maybe something going out for a successor district. And we also just wanted to get in the habit. We wanted to get in the habit of kind of incorporating this type of strategic planning on a regular basis, and that is a challenge for a loose group, a loose configuration like ours is. So we spent a lot of time over the last 18 months trying to kind of hashing all that out. And the final products of those were, we came up with a LINCC vision and mission statements. So I put those in the packet that you can see. And once again, I do want to distinguish between, Oregon City, we've got our Oregon City Library mission, vision, and values. These are LINCC-wide. And so we try to approach it from when we have we're all one cooperative hat on what's important. We did use, every library does community feedback and gets community feedback. That informed the process. We also worked very closely with our staff. We asked all of our committee members, what's important to you, when you're talking with patrons, what do you think the directions that we should go in? So we developed those in conjunction with our staff. These are the core values. These also were very staff driven. We asked staff, what's important to you as a library professional in Clackamas County, what should be guiding principles of our cooperative. And then this is the part that we've most recently spent a whole bunch of time on. So yes, the format will look somewhat familiar. To the left here, these are the strategic portions, just like we have our strategic portions. We came up with slightly different terminology for the LINCC-wide one. So what we did was we have 3 specific imperatives. Those are kind of the very high level strategic initiatives, which were listen to our communities, adapt to community needs, and share our story. And out of those, we asked our staff, what are some broad initiatives we could do to help achieve those? And then the directors, we spent almost a year kind of hashing out, okay, how do we translate that into things that we can actually do that are within our capacity and that we think we can be successful that help advance those strategic priorities. And so we have come up with our LINCC tactical plan. And I will not go through the whole thing. I think that the main things I want to hit on that is there are a couple of very important ones in there. One of them is to basically make this a recurring process, make this strategic planning and tactical planning process something that we do regularly every 3 years. And it's something that is informed by feedback from our community. So our goal is to get into this iterative pattern of find out what our community needs, assess our community needs, figure out how we're going to meet those, share our story, share our results, what we've done, and repeat, just cycle after cycle is to just get in that pattern of listening, acting, communicating, and going around. So a lot of the initiatives here are geared towards setting up that infrastructure, which does not exist right now. It's also, we're very concerned about surveying. We can certainly have every single library survey, their communities. And for some things, we want that to happen. But there's also a great opportunity for efficiencies and saving energy. If we know there are things that all of our LINCC libraries want to know and questions we want to ask, we can do that as a group. So we can have one survey that goes out and we can have the data coming back in and we can segregate it out by individual library. So there's a lot of initiatives here. Is how do we get that set up?
How are you dealing with accountability? I mean, who's accountable to get these things done?
That's a great question. And right now it's the directors group. So, so what we've also done on this, I did not put this on here. There's 2 columns that go on this plan. We also have, we are calling them champions. Okay. So in our directors group, we went through this and we said, okay, for example, this initiative, who does it resonate with? And a couple of directors would raise their hands and say, that's something that I feel, I want to be a part of. And because we also realized, I'm chair this year, and the chair is going to have to guide a lot of this. It was too much. You can't put this all in one person. So we said we need to have champions for each of these initiatives. So some have one champion, others have multiple champions. And then we also have gone out and kind of figured out which of our committees are going to take on the lion's work of this. So, for example, on some of the kids ones, we envision we'll have a couple of directors champions. They'll be the ones communicating with the committee, saying this is what we're after. They'll be the ones answering questions, providing support. They'll also be the ones reporting back to the full directors group. Hey, here's what we've done, and we will have a timetable for all of these and anticipated completion dates. This is also something that we want to get in the habit of communicating to the Library District Advisory Committee. So we want to share this with LDAC. We want to get in the habit of reporting on this, just like we report on our library statistics every year, so that we can say, hey, here's what the LINCC as a cooperative is doing, and have some accountability to our residents that way. Does that answer?
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some that are going to be easier than others. There are some that are pretty ambitious. There are some that we were very realistic on what we thought we could do within 3 years with knowing where some of our other libraries were. So for example, like when we look at eliminate overdue fines, that's something that is very important to all of us. We knew it would not be a realistic plan to say, go fine free as of this date, because there's a lot that goes into it. So you'll see the initiatives on there. Our first is work to listen to all of our libraries and figure out, okay, what are the barriers that are keeping us all from going fine free? And then once we've identified those, what's our plan to overcome those barriers and what needs to happen in order to get us to that desired state of being able to go fine free. So I think the directors were pleased with this. It was a lot of work. I'm just very happy that we got there. There were probably some typos in there, and there might be some things. I feel had a question. There was an acronym in there that didn't really make sense. So OBOB, Oregon Battle of the Books. Battle of the Books. So it's a program.
It's great. My grandkids were in that. They really, really liked it. It was good.
It makes readers. It does.
Yeah.
Like when you put that competition,
Yeah.
reading books. Yeah.
So are there any questions about any of this, and specifically individual initiatives or?
I'm interested in the first one on the last page. Looks like 2.4.1.2. Can you expand what that means and why it's necessary?
Yes, that's a great question. So 2.4.1.2, I gotta figure out a better way to refer to these. It's explore local cataloging improvements for findability of inclusive materials, as well as advocating for improved subject headings at higher levels. So one of the things that catalogers, cataloging is both art and science. And so try not to get down into the weeds. When we put things in the catalog, if you've ever searched the catalog, you've probably seen at the bottom the way our interface is. There's lots, there's subject headings. There's like, oh, this book is about this, is about this topic. So we want to, so basically the whole cataloging is to do a good job so that people can find whatever they're looking for. Now, especially in the last 20 years, there's been a lot more awareness of the fact that some of those subject headings, like many terms and many things inside, they've got white supremacist, histories to them. They are not inclusive. One of the ones that the Library of Congress recently changed. I'm going to get it wrong, but they changed it to, I can't remember, maybe you do. It was the subject heading was illegal aliens. And so they have changed it to, I can't remember.
Undocumented.
Some undocumented residents or something like that. But so it's looking at those subject headings and trying to think, being thoughtful about, are we being inclusive? Are we being, do even our subject headings have implicit bias in them that we need to address? So that's the first half of this, is to have our technical services committee really take a hard look at how we're cataloging things and look at what other systems have done and maybe some of the subject heading changes that they've done. And then our group also felt like, we're not the biggest library system out there, but we are a library system. And we do have thoughts on this. And we want to make sure that, when the Library of Congress is considering these things, or when there are discussions about these things, we wanted LINCC to be there adding a voice to what we think is the right way to go. So that's that, advocating for subject heading at higher levels. And when there are opportunities for libraries to comment and to impact how these subject headings are created and what they're changed to, that we want to be a little more vocal in at least getting our thoughts out there. Does that make sense?
So I assume that in the cataloging you're purchasing now, that is standard Library of Congress subject.
Well, so and this might be getting in the weeds for some folks. So when we purchase them, the vendors provide some MARC records. The data is called a MARC record that you purchase. Sometimes vendors provide it. Normally, when we have to augment it or get it from scratch, we start with OCLC, which is a cooperative that creates these records and provides them to the libraries. It's all done by individual libraries, however. So individual libraries contribute to OCLC, and then so the record that we download was probably created by a library somewhere else, an OCLC participating library somewhere else in the country. And yes, there are standards for what they use, but they're inconsistent.
I just would urge that there's a lot of concern about authority control when you start doing it locally. That's all.
And yes, I totally understand, but we are very, I think we're pretty good at that. We have the way our cooperative works is that all of those decisions are basically made at the central office of the county by two cataloging librarians. We do have a technical services committee that provides them feedback, but that's the office I used to manage. I can tell you those cataloging librarians are very well versed and yes, if something wacky, gets suggested, they will say that might not be the best way to go. So we need to make sure that we're being.
So Wikipedia.
No.
Second question, can you expand a little bit about the going to change classes there?
Sorry, it's so small.
Is that the branding?
2.2.1.
Yes.
I was curious about that.
There's something going on here I'm not familiar with, I think.
So sorry, 3.2.1?
Yes.
The creative proposal for a successor library district? Yes, so that is so back pre-COVID, we had started the process of having the library district task force. And Nick, jump in if you
I will. I've been kind of holding back, waiting for.
Yeah. So the library district task force at the time, it was brought about by some of the same issues that we're dealing with in LDAC now, just questions about funding and use of funds and boundaries of service areas. And the library director at the time and other folks said, these are questions that need to be answered. We can't, no one body can do this, so we need to get a process together to look at these things with the eventual goal of saying, do we need a successful library district in order to accomplish some of these things? For example, if we need a higher rate, we are in a permanent district. You cannot change the 39 cents per thousand in the current library district. If you want to change the governance model of this district, it would be very difficult to do under the current intergovernmental agreement. If we wanted to do something along the lines of our LINCC central office, because currently they are funded by county general funds, whereas the libraries get the lion's share of the library district. And the fact that the county's financial challenges in funding that office can hold back the rest of the district from doing some of the things that we want to do. So a lot of the conversation at that task force was, we think the answer is going to come out, or at least the recommendations would be, in order to do all the things we want to do, here's what the future library district looks like. So that process did not happen because of COVID. There has not been that process is not restarted, and LDAC is trying to figure out how we move forward with this. Our library directors feel that this is the future that we need to start preparing for, is that basically 39 cents per thousand is not enough in the long run. And so we want to start now gathering information, talking with stakeholders, and figuring out what do we think the future library district might look like so that we can kind of try to get ahead of the curve. That's what that is. Whether or not that, once we have a proposal, it's going to be up to individual cities. They have to sign up, the commission would have to sign up, and the voters would have to approve it. But we feel strongly that we want to start getting the ball rolling on that process of what does the future look like.
Certain time frame is up there.
I was going to say from an LDAC standpoint, just to expand on that, and this basically would be my LDAC report too. But I mean, we've been drifting in LDAC for a long time. I mean, we haven't even been meeting for, I don't even know, I can't remember when our last meeting was. And it's all been around the use of funds and use of funds primarily, around capital. And, that's been really the focus of LDAC for quite a bit of time. I mean, I've been on it for 5+ years. And I would say a lot of, that topic has been undermining everything, not everything, but a lot of things that was really that that could do, or that we just lost direction. And then with the big task force, I mean, it was just so elaborate to try to manage that. And then with COVID happening, obviously we couldn't really have meetings and, to really make that work. So again, I'd say over the last year and a half, I mean, it's really been drifting, and I think everyone's looking forward to getting resolution on, the capital issue, and then just seeing this plan and studying it a bit more. I mean, what I kind of envision is that LDAC, I think LDAC will review and accept this, or just like we did within Oregon City, there was a lot of groundwork that was done on the strategic plan and technical plan. And then it was reviewed with us as a board, and the board, agreed with, what was included in that. And I see the same process happening with LDAC. And I think that would really give LDAC, more new direction, and also make it much more meaningful than it has been over a long period of time. And I think, I even think with the mission and the values, I think that would be, great for LDAC to take those on as our, as the district representatives, to take that as, as our mission, and, to endorse this plan and endorse those mission and values and what's included in this plan.
And to answer your question, time frame, we were careful on this. So this is a 3-year plan. So our goal would be over the next 3 years that we would have our recommendation done, and we would have a plan for, if this recommendation were to go forward, how we would communicate with stakeholders and how we would, kind of initiate that. The final decision of whether there's going to be a ballot measure is completely not within the library director's control. But we want. Yeah.
I mean, clearly the board, the LDAC board is really the county commissioners, and they would be the ones that would make that final decision regardless.
It'd be unusual if it was less than 3 years.
Yeah, very unusual. Yes.
I won't have to worry about it.
There's a lot of, it's just so many, even Greg and I spending a little bit of time talking about, there's so many options and so many, one of the big things right now is just the disparity among all the libraries, and the, there's the haves and the have-nots, and probably the ones in the middle. Just in terms of funding, because of the way that the distribution works right now. And the only area that really becomes truly, from a financial standpoint, is the outside the city limits. The rest of the service areas are much much better defined in terms of from an equity standpoint than they are at the city level. And and Greg, you can add to that, or you can disagree with what I'm saying.
No, I think the other thing, there's no library that's in danger of closing their doors tomorrow. But when we look even 5 years down the road, I could think of a couple of libraries whose financial situation is going to be a lot more precarious 5 years from now than it is now. And so part of this is, again, whenever the political will, exists, or when we think there might be a chance, we just want to be ready to go. We want to be able to say, this is what we think needs to happen, and we've dotted all our I's, crossed all our T's, and talked to our communities, electeds or whoever's in charge of this. We need you to act on this so that we don't get to the point where, Library X is going to have to, like Salem. I don't know if any of us have been following what's happened in Salem over the last couple of weeks, but the Salem Public Library, they're in budget hearings now. The city of Salem is about $40 million. They have a $40 million deficit. So they, based on the last month, they identified 3 options for the library, which was closed completely. Severely reduce services and hours, and there was such an outcry that they finally, it's an interesting method they're using. They're going to lay off 8 people, I believe, and they're using about $1 million of transient lodging tax from the city of Salem. The proposal is, which I'm not 100% sure it's legal. But we don't want that to happen in Clackamas County. We don't want any individual library to be at the point where those are the options available to them. So we're trying to get ahead of the curve.
And the other thing is that May 20th is our next LDAC meeting, and actually I'm looking forward to it because we'll have something to discuss in that meeting, and I think this will be a good starting point to get LDAC refocused.
While we're here, does it make sense to update us on anything that the county has done vis-a-vis capital?
No, because I don't have anything official to share. I'll know more. We'll all know more on May 20th because part of that LDAC meeting is the county office, Department of Transportation Development, is going to come and give a presentation on what they have. I'll fill you in. I can tell you that I've heard that it doesn't sound like there's a lot of desire to make some substantial changes to the IGA. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Which means the controversy may continue.
I will. Yeah, I wish it was definitive from my perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
I will.
One way or the other.
I think I'm safe in saying that should an IGA proposal come that really doesn't do anything, I would certainly advocate that rather than spending the time and energy to go about amending an IGA and honestly expending goodwill with individual city commissions, don't bother changing it just to make a change that doesn't do anything. Just have the Board of County Commissioners respond to LDAC and say, hey, we looked at this, we don't share your concerns, we're going to let libraries go forward. But I'm one voice in there. So, and Nick's the actual representative to LDAC, so whatever Nick thinks, that's
I've given my perspective on it. I mean, I just think, this document is not overwhelming. I mean, when we started looking at the big task force, and it was just to try to get your head around it, it was so complex just with the different groups that were going to be involved. I mean, it was just overwhelming just in terms of the minutia of making it work. Yeah. And this is so focused that I think it's going to be, this will be really good for LDAC. And I think it will, give credibility in terms of what the directors have put together. And I would hope that that's what the directors would like to see.
Great. Makes sense.
Any other questions? Comments?
All right.
Thank you for letting me share that.
You're welcome. So there's no public comment. which I skipped over before. So communications, I guess we've heard LDAC. Anything else? Yeah. Okay, the Friends.
The friends we have sort of had punctuated meetings where they stick some, so I may miss some things. But two big things come up. One is the friends have agreed to fund the transition of the teen advisory group's newsletter from hard copy to online, which is I think really a great thing coming up.
Perfect for the audience.
Yeah, exactly. And secondly, they continue to be surprised at the success of marketing their books on eBay.
Yes.
For example, in 1 month, for 3 books, they got $750, most of which was for one of those 3 books. So people are out there seeking books that people are donating.
Cool.
And, there's a seeker born every minute. And I've been trying to find a way to link that in.
Nice one.
But that's it from the friends.
Thank you. Thank you, Friends. And the foundation.
It's kind of weird because we meet after this meeting, so we're actually meeting tomorrow.
Right.
So all of my reporting is like a month delayed, but we're still in business. I don't know if I gave an update, but the foundation made approximately close to $4,000 on the event that we had back in February, and the Friends got $2,500 to $3,000. So that was a successful fundraising event, and we're tentatively planning another one for October. The tentative date, don't quote me, is October 24th with a kind of a Halloween kind of theme. And so we're just going to be exploring tomorrow night, firming up that date and what the theme will be and that sort of thing. So stay tuned. The other thing is that we are planning to do a field trip, sounds like 3rd grade, but do a field trip to one of the libraries that has the outreach vehicles to kind of just see, because we're interested in funding towards that goal, and to talk to staff about what their experiences are with an outreach vehicle, which is not a bookmobile. I want to just emphasize that. I can see Denise is bristling at it. And kind of what are the implications from a staff perspective? What's needed in a vehicle? Is it a van? Is it a truck type device? What is it? And so we'll be planning a field trip to someplace that has one of those kinds of vehicles already going. And then our donor database there's about 400 and something members in the donor database, and it's currently being managed in an Excel spreadsheet, which is really not working as well as we'd like it to. It's very cumbersome, and if you make a mistake here, like it appears like 14 pages down the road here, and you have to be very careful. And so we're seeking input about donor database databases that might be workable for a relatively small database as the foundation has. So some of our members are looking into that, but I wanted to bring it up here. If any of you belong to an organization that has a user-friendly donor database, electronic donor database, we'd like to know about it because we want to make that investment for our foundation's future. So there we are.
Great, thank you. Teens?
Yeah, so the teams have been making a lot of decisions lately. They are steadily moving forward with the teen area design. So they have now chosen the upholstery for their lounge chairs, which they've now ordered. And then they've also selected their planter box for the vertical garden. A really neat design that they can remove from the wall that they can then water easily. So wise decision there. And then they are also going to be meeting with the Youth Advisory Commission. So they have a meet and greet and just some time for them to get together and discuss future projects and initiatives on June 9th. And then lastly, they have chosen the summer reading prizes and challenges. So they're going to do a bingo card on Beanstack. And they also have chosen the classic book prize, which will be Fahrenheit 451.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's their book club book this month. That's great.
Yeah. And then, like you already mentioned, just wanted to say thank you to the Friends of the Library for the funding for their new online newsletter, which they're calling, well, I guess it's already the Stacks, but it will be the Stacks.blog. So yeah.
Cool.
Good.
Well, you had asked a question. About 3 weeks ago, I presented with Greg to the City Commission, sort of the state of the library. It was well received. You know, I think we have a lot of positive things to say. They were interested in if things had turned the corner, and we talked about digital versus hard books and how that's worked. I did point out that I do have a concern that in about 3 years, we're going to have a major budget hiccup. Because of the funding model that they've chosen, and it's going to be that disparity where we've got several years of bond repayment, but we're not going to have the resources to make those payments. And so I just wanted to keep that in their heads. But I thought it went well.
Yeah. No,
I can make a comment. You did a fantastic job, and every time you make that report, which you've done over, I don't know, is this your third time or second?
I think so, yeah, second or third.
It makes me proud to be part of the library board.
Well, thank you.
Presentation.
No,
You did a great job.
thank you. Good. Anything else?
And then we also did include the tactical plan with the update. So they didn't have any questions. So we anticipate that, every year as part of the report back, that we would start including progress on that to answer the question.
Right.
That report.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah,
And I agree, you did a great job.
it was a pleasure. It's easy. All right. Well, anything else for the good of the order?
I'll just give a shout out to the library for helping we had the Middle Eastern North African Cultural Fest, and the library was there, and the Portland Reading Council donated books. That was a nice relationship there to have that. And then we have the Ukrainian Spring Celebration, May 11th at Gardner Middle School at noon, and the library is participating in that as well.
Great.
Thank you for being part of those.
Thank you for all the work you do to arrange and make those events happen.
They're very well received.
Yeah.
Great for community benefits.
All right, meeting's adjourned.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
See you next month.
Last night,
Thanks, Nick.
Oh.
second and fourth.